We are in between homes right now. We moved across the state, and while we wait for our new house to open up, we're staying in a temporary place. My full studio? Well, it's packed away in boxes and tubs and bags, but I still have to work as a full-time audio engineer, producer, musician, and as a live stream host. So this is my completely mobile studio setup, everything I need on a fold-out table in a bonus bedroom. It's not necessarily ideal, but I figured out how to keep everything running, recording, mixing, live streaming, consulting, and today I want to show you how I made it all work. Let's start with the core of the whole setup. My 16-inch MacBook Pro with Apple's M2 Max chip. It's got 32 gigs of unified memory and 1 terabyte of internal storage, which is perfect for handling large Pro Tools sessions, plug-in heavy mixes, and even live streaming. The M2 Max has not let me down yet. It's incredibly efficient, even with tons of CPU heavy plugins and apps open all at the same time. Between Pro Tools, OBS, many different streaming plugins, apps and plugins that are music or DAW based, I have thrown a ton at this computer all at once, and it really hasn't given me any issues that were not self-inflicted because of things that I just don't know how to do or have run into my own knowledge limitations on how to execute these things. But the MacBook Pro itself has been pretty freaking awesome, and that is run at a very, very high level, quietly and coolly, while I've thrown a whole bunch of things at it. The second screen I use is a 16-inch Azorpa portable monitor. It's USB-C powered, super slim, and surprisingly bright and color accurate for the price. Having a second display is essential when I'm multitasking, especially when I'm referencing stream notes, toggling plugin windows, or dragging instruments onto a secondary screen for arrangement work and mixing. When I'm in my main studio with my stable setup, I have a specific audio interface that I use all the time that I love and adore. I'll talk about that at a later time. For my mobile setup, for years I have used the Universal Audio Volt 4. This is actually the second Volt that I've owned. I had the Volt 2 for years before I upgraded to the Volt 4, so that I had a few more options as far as what all I could plug in with instruments, maybe a couple synths that I was using mobile on the road or whatever it may be. This way I can have a couple mics and a couple instruments always plugged in. It gives me a bit of expandability and a few more options when it comes to tracking and recording on the road. So all of my audio in my mobile studio setup is routed through the Volt 4. This interface really punches way above its price point. It has 4 inputs, a solid 24-bit 192 kilohertz conversion, and built-in vintage mic preamp emulation. I'm pretty sure this is an emulation of the Universal Audio 710, if I'm not mistaken. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments. I could be incorrect about that, but I'm pretty sure it's the UA 710. But this adds a nice touch of analog tone to vocal or instrument tracking without needing extra gear. It's USB-C powered, so I don't need an external power supply, and it's become my go-to mobile interface because of its quality and its reliability. For monitoring, I use a few different headphone options depending on what I'm doing. My primary tracking headphones are the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. These are closed back, super comfortable for long sessions, and offer that signature Beyer top-end clarity. I've used these for well over a decade, and although on long sessions, like I used to mix on these, on long sessions, I do find them to be a bit bright and shrill and uncomfortable from a frequency standpoint. They are very light, soft, and comfortable to wear for very long listening sessions or on the road mixing sessions. For mixing and critical listening, I use the Focal Clear MGs. These are open back reference grade headphones with incredible transient detail and a very, very natural stereo image. Now these headphones are wildly expensive, but if you're like me and you're on the road, not often, but fairly often, and you need to be able to have studio grade, industry standard referencing while you're on the road, these are about as good as they get. The stereo image is incredibly accurate. It doesn't feel like your driver on the ears. You feel like you're in a bit more space. Being open back, you just get a bit more of that open feel. Obviously, I would never use these to track just because they bleed a lot, but they're incredibly high detail, incredibly accurate, and honestly, some of the best sounding headphones I have ever used. These are largely, even when I am am in my studio, I still use these often to mix because they are so detailed, so incredibly accurate, and I could not be happier with the decision to purchase those a couple years back. As a secondary or client pair, I also keep a set of Sennheiser HD280 Pros on hand. I've had these for forever. They're neutral, they're rugged, and I've found they translate well when testing mixes across different mediums and different listening environments and stuff like that. The MIDI controller I'm using right now is the Arturia Keylab Essential 61 MK2. It's got velocity sensitive keys, 8 pads, faders, knobs, and pretty tight integration with most DAWs, which I don't really use that often. I pretty much just use it as the key bed controller for what I'm doing with my VSTs. The thing I love most about the Essential 61 is that it's just plug and play. It just works, no drama. But if I need an even more compact footprint or I'm moving around a lot, I'll use the KeyStep Pro instead. It's smaller but still powerful, and I use this all the time to sequence and arpeggiate my hardware, synths, and other stuff that I have here in the studio. Now, microphones, of course, are a core part of any studio setup, whether you are on the road or you are in a stable studio environment. Now, my desert island mic, which I'm sure is the same for most engineers that have been doing this for a while, is the Shure SM57. You just can't go wrong. I use it for literally everything. Mic and guitar amps, percussion, drums, sometimes even vocals if I just want that gritty rock and roll tone. It's durable, sounds pretty decent, and it costs $100. You can find one used for like 75. What's to hate about the SM57? I also carry a Neumann TLM 102 for cleaner vocal takes. It's a large diaphragm condenser. It gives a really nice high-end presence, and it handles vocals and acoustics really, really well. If I know I need to throw something together on the road but maybe need a little bit more depth and clarity, then the TLM 102 is always a good option to go to. As with a lot of the stuff in here, it's not necessarily my favorite microphone. I've talked about this before, especially for the price. To me, it can feel a bit harsh and brittle sometimes, especially on the highs, but it still handles things pretty well, especially on acoustic guitars and some vocals. It just works. Is it maybe a bit overpriced and maybe overhyped in my opinion? Sure, but it hasn't really treated me wrong for the last couple years, and it's usually what I'll toss in my bag if I'm gonna be on the road and know that I need an option like the 57 for something dynamic, or something like the TLM 102 for maybe a more broad sound that I would want a large diaphragm condenser for. And then if I really need something special and I know that I'm maybe going to be traveling into a treated space and I want something a bit more high-end, that's when I'll usually break out my Neumann M147 tube. This is my favorite mic that I own, at least for this particular use case. It is a tube hybrid microphone. It is incredible on vocals, acoustics, even, you know, electric guitar cabs. It does a great job too, but man, vocal and acoustic guitar, it just shines. It's warm, it's rich, it handles low end beautifully. It's so silky smooth. I have zero complaints with this microphone. It's one of my favorites. So that's a staple in my actual studio setup, but on the road, I can toss it in its case. And if I know I need a little bit more richness in what I'm doing, then it's a great direction to turn. Powering everything is a basic Amazon power strip, and I keep all my USB connections running through a dock for cable management, stuff like that. I also have a tabletop wireless phone charger from Target that I use constantly. It sounds silly, but small conveniences like that really help with your workflow when you're juggling a lot of different devices. But that's pretty much my full mobile studio setup while we're mid-move. If I really need additional instrumentation, sometimes I might throw my Parlor acoustic from Gretsch in there, or even like my Stratocaster in a gig bag and take it on the road. Or if I need an analog synthesizer, I can throw my Mini-Log into a bag and have something of the sorts on the go. But more often than not, I try to slim things down as much as I possibly can. And even what I mentioned here is maybe a slightly more elaborate setup than I would typically have mobily, just because I know we're going to be in this spot for 4 to 6 weeks or so until our next home is ready to go and we can set up a fresh studio. It's definitely not my dream space, but it's getting the job done, and that's what really counts. If you're currently building your own mobile studio setup or just working in less than ideal situations, hopefully this gave you some insights and maybe some inspiration on what you personally can do in your own setup. If you want to see how we run our live stream setup in detail, I go over all of that in an extended version of this video exclusively on our Patreon. You can find that at the link in our description. And of course, if you like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe and send this out to other creatives that you think would find it informative and useful. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.